Unresolved goodbyes shape your decisions in ways you rarely recognize, yet they quietly dominate the direction of your life. The truth is that the things you pretend you've moved on from are often the very things still pulling the strings behind every choice you make. You can bury a goodbye, you can ignore it, you can tell yourself you're fine, but the mind doesn't forget what the heart hasn't processed. That unresolved goodbye becomes a silent advisor, whispering fear into your ambitions, hesitation into your opportunities, and doubt into your relationships. You think you're making logical decisions, but many of the paths you choose or avoid are responses to a moment you never emotionally completed. Every goodbye leaves an imprint. Some are gentle, some are necessary, and some slice so deep that they alter the way you see yourself and the world around you. When a goodbye remains unresolved, it becomes a filter. You start looking at every new chance through the lens of that old loss. If someone walked away from you before, you start expecting others to do the same. If someone betrayed you, you instinctively distrust the next person. If an opportunity slipped through your hands, you hesitate when the next one arrives because the sting of the first failure still sits under your skin. And if you didn't get closure, you quietly replay the moment over and over, hoping that understanding the past will protect you from the future, even when it's actually holding you back from it. Unresolved goodbyes drain your energy because they live rent-free in your mind. They affect your confidence because you keep questioning what you could have done differently. They affect your self-worth because you internalize the loss as a reflection of who you were. They affect your courage because you fear repeating the same pain. And every time you choose comfort over risk, familiarity over growth, or isolation over vulnerability, there is a good chance that goodbye is guiding you more than logic ever will. But the most dangerous part is this unresolved goodbyes shape you quietly. They don't shout. They don't flash warnings. They influence you subtly through 1,000 micro decisions you don't even notice. You stop chasing certain dreams without understanding why. You settle for less than you deserve because you're afraid of loss. You downplay your potential because someone made you feel unworthy in the past. You stay stuck in places you've outgrown because you fear another ending. The goodbye that hurt you becomes the architect of a smaller life. Yet within that pain lies the greatest opportunity for transformation. That lingering goodbye is telling you exactly where you need healing, growth, boundaries, discipline, and self-respect. It highlights the areas where you've been avoiding truth. It reveals the places where fear has replaced intention. It exposes the emotional landmines that dictate your reactions. And once you face it, really face it, you regain the power that moment took from you. Resolving a goodbye doesn't mean erasing the memory or pretending it didn't matter. It means understanding its impact so you can finally reclaim control over the choices it has been making for you. When you confront the truth of why it still hurts, the goodbye loses its grip. Your decisions become yours again. Your future stops being shaped by what left and starts being shaped by what you're becoming. The goodbye that still hurts isn't just a memory. Until you confront it, it is your compass. And the moment you choose to take back that compass, your entire life changes direction. Painful endings reveal your weaknesses and your strengths because nothing strips you down to your most honest self like losing something you thought would stay. A goodbye that hits hard doesn't just hurt you emotionally, it exposes you. It exposes the parts of you that were dependent, insecure, unprepared, or unrealistic. It also exposes the parts of you that are stronger, more resilient, and more capable than you ever realized. Endings are mirrors. They reflect back the real you, not the version you pretend to be or hope to be, but the one that emerges when comfort is gone, certainty collapses, and you're forced to face life without safety nets. When everything is going well, it's easy to believe you're strong. It's easy to believe you're committed, focused, disciplined, and ready for anything. But when something important ends, when a relationship disappears, when a dream slips away, when an opportunity closes, you find out quickly which parts of you are built to last and which parts were built on illusion. Painful endings test your emotional endurance. They test your patience. They test your ability to stay grounded when your world gets shaken. They test your capacity to stay rational when your emotions are screaming. And most importantly, they test your character. Do you crumble or do you confront? The goodbye that still hurts is often the one that uncovered your blind spots. Maybe you ignored the warning signs. Maybe you tolerated less than you deserved. Maybe you depended too heavily on someone else for validation. Maybe you underestimated your own value. Maybe you weren't as disciplined or focused as you believed. Painful endings force you to acknowledge these truths, not to punish yourself, but to grow. They reveal where you were vulnerable, where you lacked boundaries, where you avoided responsibility, where you stayed comfortable instead of challenging yourself. But in the same breath, painful endings also reveal your strengths. You find out you can survive what felt impossible. You discover that you can rebuild from zero. You learn that you can adapt faster than you thought. You learn that you can keep moving even when your heart feels heavy. You learn that the world doesn't end just because something important did. You learn that resilience isn't just a word, it's a part of you that gets louder when life gets harder. Painful endings don't just show you what broke, they show you what refused to break. Most people run from these realizations. They distract themselves, deny responsibility, and pretend the ending didn't affect them. Every time you avoid the truth, you get weaker. Every time you confront the truth, you get stronger. Painful endings are not meant to destroy you. They're meant to strip away the illusions that were holding you back. They clear the path so you can rebuild on a foundation made of awareness, not avoidance. The real transformation happens when you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what did this ending reveal about me? That question is where growth begins. That question is where maturity forms. That question is where you stop repeating cycles and start creating breakthroughs. Painful endings are uncomfortable, but they are also essential. They force you to grow up emotionally. They force you to level up mentally. They force you to rebuild your identity with intention instead of insecurity. They teach you what to strengthen, what to release, and what to never tolerate again. They carve out the weaker parts of you and sharpen the stronger ones. And when the dust settles, you realize something powerful. The goodbye that hurt you didn't just change your life, it changed you. And who you become after that moment is the real beginning of everything you're meant to build next. Letting go is a discipline, not an emotion, because human beings rarely feel ready to release anything that once brought them comfort, validation, certainty, or identity. Most people wait to let go until the pain fades, the confusion settles, or the closure arrives. But life doesn't work like that. Endings are almost always messy. Goodbyes often come without warnings. Closure is a luxury that most people never receive. If you rely on your feelings to guide the process of letting go, you will stay attached to things that stopped serving you long ago. Discipline is the only force strong enough to break emotional gravity. You don't let go because it feels good. You let go because it's necessary. Letting go requires mental strength because your mind will try to drag you backward. It will replay memories, exaggerate what was good, minimize what was bad, and build illusions about the past that never existed in reality. The human mind hates loss, so it creates stories that justify holding on. But discipline cuts through those illusions. Doesn't care how many memories you shared, how deeply you cared, or how badly you wanted something to work. Discipline looks at the truth. If it left, if it collapsed, if it no longer aligns with your future, then your job is to release it, not romanticize it. Letting go is also a discipline because emotions resist change. They want familiarity, even if the familiar thing is harmful. People stay in relationships they've outgrown because the loneliness scares them. They cling to opportunities that drain them because failure scares them. They hold on to identities that limit them because reinvention scares them. Letting go demands that you do what your heart might protest, what your ego might fight, and what your fears might scream against. Discipline overrules those voices. Discipline says, we're moving on anyway. When you treat letting go as a disciplined act, you stop waiting for the perfect moment to heal. You don't wait for the pain to disappear. You learn to walk with it. You don't wait for answers. You create your own closure. You don't wait for things to make sense. You accept that some chapters weren't meant to end neatly. You stop negotiating with the past and start investing in the future. Discipline invites you to act before you feel ready, because emotional readiness rarely comes before action, it comes after. Letting go also requires discipline because your future depends on it. You cannot build a stronger life while dragging dead weight behind you. You cannot welcome new people while clinging to old attachments. You cannot evolve while staying emotionally anchored to what ended. Every moment you hold onto something that's gone is a moment you rob from the life that's trying to reach you. Discipline forces you to choose growth over nostalgia, progress over comfort, and truth over longing. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean the goodbye didn't matter. It means you're refusing to let yesterday dictate who you become tomorrow. It means you've decided that your future is worth more than the past that hurt you. It means you're willing to feel the discomfort that leads to liberation instead of the emotional stagnation that leads to regret. Letting go is a discipline because it demands strength in the exact moments when you feel weakest. But once you master that discipline, you become someone who is no longer trapped by endings. You become someone who can rise because of them. Growth after loss is always a choice, but it's a choice that most people never make because pain gives them an excuse to stay still. When something ends and it hurts, when the goodbye leaves a hole in your chest, you stand at a crossroads. Either you let the pain become your prison, or you turn it into the fuel that forces you to rise. Growth doesn't happen automatically. Pain alone doesn't transform you. What transforms you is what you decide to do with that pain. Some people let it break them. Others let it build them. The difference isn't in the size of the loss. It's in the strength of the response. The truth is, pain makes you aware of everything you ignored. It shows you the patterns you kept repeating. It exposes the weaknesses you tried to hide. It reveals the boundaries you never set, the standards you lowered, and the truths you avoided. But awareness is useless without action. If you want to grow after loss, you have to confront the uncomfortable parts of yourself that contributed to the pain. You have to take responsibility, not for what happened, but for what happens next. Because growth doesn't come from saying, I didn't deserve this. Growth comes from saying, this will not define me. Growth after a painful goodbye requires the courage to rebuild your identity. When someone leaves your life, they take with them the version of you that existed during that time. That version can't survive the next chapter. You have to redefine who you are without that person, that comfort, that attachment, or that routine. And that's terrifying for most people. They fear the emptiness that follows loss. But emptiness isn't something to fear, it's space. Space you can fill intentionally. Space you can shape into something stronger. Space where the next better version of you can breathe. And let's be clear, growth is not instant. It's not glamorous. It's not a straight line. Some days you're motivated and ready to evolve. Some days you're angry. Some days you feel nothing but heaviness. Growth isn't about pretending you're fine. It's about staying committed to becoming stronger even when you don't feel strong yet. It's about showing up for yourself consistently, especially on the days when your emotions resist you. The people who transform their lives after loss aren't the ones who feel the least pain. They're the ones who refuse to let the pain stop them. After loss also requires new standards. Pain opens your eyes, but standards prevent you from repeating the same cycle. You have to raise your expectations for yourself, for your decisions, for the people you allow into your life. You have to stop tolerating behaviors that drain you. You have to stop accepting situations that stunt your progress. You have to stop returning the comfort that harmed you just because it's familiar. Growth demands that you protect your future more fiercely than you cling to your past. The goodbye that still hurts can become the exact catalyst you needed to level up. It can become the moment that forced you to see your worth clearly. It can become the reason you finally prioritize yourself. It can become the push that launches you into a life you would have never pursued without the pain. Loss can be the ending that breaks you, or it can be the beginning that remakes you. Growth after loss is a choice, a hard one, a painful one, but a powerful one. And the moment you choose it, you stop surviving the goodbye and you start surpassing it. Accountability after a painful goodbye is one of the hardest disciplines to embrace because your first instinct is to blame the situation, the timing, the other person, or the circumstances that led to the ending. But accountability isn't about taking the fall for things that weren't your fault. It's about recognizing the role you played in your own pain so that you never repeat the same mistakes again. Pain pushes you to search for reasons, but growth pushes you to search for responsibility. And responsibility is where transformation begins. When you finally say, I could have done better, or I ignored the signs, or I stayed too long, or I didn't honor my own standards, you open the door to change. The people who refuse accountability stay stuck in the same patterns for years. The people who accept it evolve faster than they ever imagined. Most painful goodbyes don't come out of nowhere. There were moments when you felt something was off. Moments when your intuition whispered the truth. Moments when you saw red flags but chose comfort over confrontation. Moments when you tried to save something that was already falling apart. Accountability forces you to acknowledge these moments, not to shame yourself, but to understand your own behavior. When you understand your patterns, you gain control over them. When you ignore them, they control you. Accountability is the skill that separates people who heal from people who repeat. But accountability is not easy because it demands emotional honesty. It demands that you face the parts of yourself that were needy, fearful, passive, reactive, or unprepared. It demands that you admit where your insecurities influenced your decisions. It demands that you acknowledge when you accepted less than you deserved, or when you contributed more to the downfall than you realized. Most people run from this level of self-awareness because it threatens their ego. They would rather label themselves victims of circumstance than architects of their own lessons. But accountability doesn't break your ego, it refines it. True accountability also protects your future. When you own your mistakes, you learn from them. When you deny them, you repeat them. If you want your next chapter to be stronger, you must take responsibility for the choices that shaped your last one. The goodbye that still hurts becomes meaningful when you extract the wisdom from it, the patterns you won't fall for again, the standards you won't lower again, the boundaries you'll enforce next time, the self-respect you'll never compromise. Accountability turns pain into preparation. It turns heartbreak into self-mastery. It turns endings into training ground for better outcomes. Another reason accountability matters is that it restores your power. When you blame everything outside yourself, you hand over your control. You make your healing dependent on things you can't influence. But when you take responsibility for your part, you reclaim authority over your life. You tell yourself, I won't let this happen again because I'm choosing differently now. Accountability is the moment you stop feeling powerless and start feeling capable. Painful goodbyes leave scars, but accountability ensures they don't become open wounds that you carry into your future. It teaches you to act with clarity instead of desperation. It teaches you to choose people and opportunities from a place of strength instead of fear. It teaches you to build relationships, careers, and dreams with standards that reflect who you are becoming, not who you were when you got hurt. Accountability is uncomfortable, but it is the key that unlocks emotional freedom. It transforms you from someone who suffered a goodbye into someone who outgrew the need for what ended. And once you reach that level of self-ownership, you stop fearing endings because you know you'll grow stronger from every single one. Healing doesn't happen the moment the pain hits. It begins the moment you decide that the pain will not control you. The goodbye that still hurts lingers in your mind, in your routine, in your habits, and in the quiet moments you don't talk about. Healing isn't a switch, it's a sequence. And the first step is simply acknowledging that you were affected. Most people pretend they're fine because admitting hurt feels like weakness. But denial doesn't heal anything, it just buries wounds deeper. Healing begins with honesty. It begins when you admit, this broke something in me, and now I'm going to rebuild it. That level of honesty creates the foundation for real recovery. Healing also demands patience because pain doesn't follow your schedule. Some days you feel strong and certain, ready to move forward. Other days, you feel yourself slipping back into memories, wondering what you could have changed, or trying to rewrite a past that will never shift. That fluctuation is part of the process. People sabotage their healing by expecting consistency. They think progress should be linear, but healing is messy. You don't get over something in one moment. You get over it in 100 tiny choices, choosing not to replay the past, choosing not to chase closure, choosing not to romanticize what hurt you, choosing not to let sadness turn into self-neglect. Healing is a discipline, not an accident. Another essential part of healing is learning how to sit with your emotions instead of running from them. Most people distract themselves, work more, go out more, numb themselves with noise because silence forces them to confront what hurts. But running from discomfort only extends it. When you sit with your pain, you let it move through you instead of letting it settle inside you. Healing doesn't mean the emotions disappear. It means you stop fearing them. When you can face your sadness without collapsing, face your anger without exploding, face your regrets without drowning, you gain emotional power. And emotional power is what breaks long-term attachment to the past. Healing after a painful goodbye also requires rebuilding the parts of yourself that got neglected while you were attached to what you lost. Pain often exposes the ways you abandoned your needs, your passions, your purpose, or your identity. Healing demands that you reclaim those pieces. It means investing in your growth, rebuilding your confidence, restoring your self-respect, and reconnecting with the goals that got pushed aside. Many people think healing is about moving on from someone else, but it's really about coming back home to yourself. You don't heal by replacing what you lost. You heal by becoming someone who no longer needs what's gone. Forgiveness is another aspect of healing that most people misunderstand. Forgiveness isn't about excusing someone's actions or pretending the ending wasn't painful. Forgiveness is about releasing the emotional weight that's holding you hostage. When you forgive, you don't free the other person. You free yourself. You stop letting anger dictate your thoughts. You stop letting disappointment define your worth. You stop letting the past shape your identity. Forgiveness is self-liberation. Finally, healing becomes real the moment you shift your focus from why it ended to why I'm still here. You survived something that felt devastating. You endured heartbreak, loss, confusion, and uncertainty, and you're still standing. Healing means recognizing your resilience. It means choosing to believe that something better is still ahead. It means trusting that pain is not the end of your story, but the beginning of your evolution. Healing is not about forgetting the goodbye that hurt you. It's about becoming someone who is no longer controlled by it. It's about turning a wound into wisdom, a setback into strength, and an ending into a turning point. And once you reach that stage, the goodbye that once shattered you becomes the catalyst that rebuilt you stronger than ever.